This boy was treated like trash his entire life because he was born illegitimate. No one in his clan ever respected him. Then one day, something unexpected happened. He was chosen by a legendary sword. They refused to believe someone like him could be chosen by a high-ranked weapon. Soon after, doctors revealed that his mana pathways were broken, meaning he could never use power. Everything he gained disappeared instantly. His family mocked him, calling him weak, pathetic, and useless. In the end, they banished him from the clan, and eventually killed him. But he was given a second chance. This time, every weapon chooses him, and he can read their memories. With this power, he decides to take revenge on those who betrayed and killed him. The story begins in the dark, unexplored northern region of South Korea. A group of travelers and hooded figures gather together in the quiet forest. A young man looks around nervously while standing among mysterious cloaked figures. An older man offers a drink and asks if this is the youth's first time on an expedition. The young man says he is nervous because he has never been to an unexplored region before. He explains that these ancient places are bound to be filled with monsters. He adds that they should expect to encounter many ancient monsters as well. Seeking comfort, the youth mentions that their leader is from the famous and esteemed Martial Lee clan. He assumes the leader is strong, but the older man asks if he means that person. He tells the young man that the expedition leader is an illegitimate child who was banished from the clan for being weak. This is Lee Cheo, the ninth illegitimate child of the prestigious Martial Lee clan. The veteran continues to mock Cheol, saying that he lacks talent and is only a 7th-rank martial artist for his age. He openly wonders how they can depend on someone who seems so weak. Suddenly, a figure approaches Lee Cheol. He calls Cheol the expedition leader and tells him that they are ready to move on. He stares at the hooded figure for a while, then finally agrees. Cheol realizes the Shadow Sword squad assigned to protect him feels suspicious, sensing that their intentions might not be pure. As he walks into the forest, he admits he has a very bad feeling about this mission. As he walks, Lee Cheol reflects on his past, remembering a time when he still held on to his own hopes and dreams. He recalls the moment he truly understood the heavy burden that comes with being born into the prestigious Martial Lee clan. During the steel selection ritual, he was unexpectedly chosen by a legendary, top-tier weapon. He promised himself that if he worked hard and gained enough merit, he would eventually earn the respect of everyone around him. Unfortunately, his optimistic dreams were quickly crushed by a harsh reality. A doctor examines his body and expresses shock at his unique mana paths, noting that they are completely incompatible with magic. The expert further explains that even practicing martial arts would be dangerous and unstable due to his condition. The professional delivers a final blow, stating that reaching even the 9th rank of martial arts would require a literal miracle for someone with his body. The news of his condition quickly reaches his father, the clan patriarch. His father looks grim and saddened by the report. As word of his disability spread, the attitude of those around him shifted from curiosity to cold indifference. People began to mock his previous success at the ritual, calling it a fluke or a simple error. Despite the grim predictions, he refused to give up and eventually achieved 7th rank at age 25. Although his siblings reached this rank much earlier, he was truly happy with his feat. But his hard-earned happiness was short-lived, as he was officially banished from the clan upon turning 30. He notes that his survival during the exile was only possible thanks to the intervention of his eldest brother. Otherwise, he would have faced more than just exile. For the past 10 years, Lee Cheol has been living a life on the run. He recalls how a time of total chaos eventually descended upon the world. Discarded papers flutter through the empty alleys, highlighting the desolation of the city. The wind whistles through the wreckage, blowing old newspapers across the ground. Lee Cheol sits in the shadows, surrounded by the debris of a broken society. His hand tightly clenches a newspaper that asks if there is any solution to the monster crisis. But he reads something in the newspaper that deeply shocks him. He discovers a report stating that his father, the clan's patriarch and a legendary martial artist, has passed away. Suddenly, he hears footsteps as someone addresses him by his former title. Two mysterious figures in dark hoods appear before him in the middle of the night. He immediately identifies them as members of the elite Shadow Sword squad. He asks how they were able to find him after so long. One of the figures silently hands him a formal document, calling it a decree. Lee Cheol sighs when they ignore his question and force him to take the paper. He reads the mission decree and is shocked to find it signed by his third brother, Gun Seon, who is now the patriarch. This revelation makes him wonder what could have happened to his eldest brother. The messengers tell him to be ready in an hour and start to walk away. He desperately calls out to them, asking for information about the eldest son, but the figures remain silent, leaving him alone with his growing anxiety. He feels bitter about being ignored, and wonders why they want a weak martial artist like him, who is only 7th rank, and hasn't even touched a sword in 10 years. The guards coldly ask if he plans to refuse the orders given to him. He looks at his sword, knowing that disobedience would lead to a certain death sentence. Having no other choice, he reluctantly agrees to take on the dangerous assignment. Suddenly, the Shadow Squad vanishes into thin air, right in front of Cheol. His frustration boils over as he tightly grips the mission decree, crumpling the paper in his fist. Back to the present. The group of travelers and hooded guards continues their trek through the dense woods, their footsteps muffled by the thick undergrowth. One of the younger travelers suddenly stops in his tracks, his face paling as he notices something looming ahead. Emerging from the fog, an ancient and ruined temple looms over the group like a silent giant. Without a moment of hesitation, the Shadow Unit orders the group to move inside. The group cautiously steps into the pitch-black interior of the ruins, their weapons drawn and ready for a potential fight. In the center of the chamber sits the colossal skull of an ancient monster, its jagged teeth still appearing sharp and lethal. Piles of human skeletons are scattered all around it. The young traveler stammers in disbelief, realizing they have stumbled upon the resting place of a legendary, ancient creature. The lead guards confirms they have finally found what they were looking for, and he gives the signal for the real mission to begin. In a sudden burst of violence, the hooded figures turn their weapons on the very people they were supposed to protect. Li Cheol watches in absolute horror as the camp turns into a slaughterhouse in the blink of an eye. Another traveler screams out in desperation, demanding to know why their protectors have suddenly turned into executioners. The guard coldly reveals the truth, stating that everyone present was destined to die from the very moment the expedition began. He adds that the travelers should feel honored to sacrifice their lives for the sake of the Marshall Li clan's interests. In the chaos, Li Cheol manages to stab one of the Shadow Unit with his sword. He demands to know the mastermind behind all of this. Li Cheol is stunned when the assassin reveals that their liege personally ordered the mission. He says this without flinching, even while wounded. The guard explains that they were specifically ordered to bring the entire group to this location, and to be killed as cleanly as possible. He breaks Cheol's sword with his bare hands. Li Cheol watches in disbelief as the assassin's fatal wound begins to close on its own. Out of pure desperation, one of the martial artists lunges forward with a final frantic attack. A devastating pillar of red energy strikes down, overwhelming everything in its path, and destroying the martial artist. Li Cheol is sent flying through the air by the force of the strike. The assassin mocks his weak efforts, calling him pathetic. As the assassin charges at him, battered and bruised, Li Cheol tries to find the strength to stand back up. The assassin continues to taunt him, reminding him that his lineage should have made him a more formidable opponent. Another brutal blow lands, causing Li Cheol to cough up a spray of blood. Li Cheol is sent flying through the air by the force of the strike. The impact causes him to cough up even more blood. With his final breaths, he refuses to accept such a miserable end at the hands of his betrayers. He frantically searches his surroundings for any means of defense. His mind remains focused on finding a weapon to replace his shattered blade. His eyes lock onto an ancient sword partially buried in the debris of the ruined temple. With a desperate plea in his heart, he lunges toward the discarded weapon with the last of his strength. His blood-stained hand firmly grasps the hilt of the ancient sword, providing him with a momentary surge of hope. However, the expected weight of the blade suddenly vanishes, leaving Li Cheol staring in wide-eyed confusion. To his horror, the solid metal of the sword begins to dissolve into a thick, swirling cloud of black smoke. The mysterious black energy suddenly surges, evaporating his only weapon while the masked man mocks his pathetic state. Raising his blade, the executioner prepares to deliver a final strike, infused with a lethal red glow. As his consciousness begins to fade into a cold void, Li Cheol laments the cruelty of the heavens for leading him to such a miserable end. He reflects on a lifetime spent in constant struggle, always running from a fate that eventually caught up to him. Sinking deeper into the darkness, he feels the weight of his regrets, pulling him down into an eternal sleep. In his final moments of awareness, he sends out a silent, desperate wish for just one more chance to change his destiny. Suddenly, the silence of death is broken by a familiar, booming voice that Li Cheol immediately recognizes as his father's. The conversation continues as a servant explains the tragic fate of a woman named Yujung, noting she had already passed away. This is Cheol's father, the legendary patriarch Li Taishan. Li Cheol is struck by how youthful both his father and butler Choi appear in this strange vision. As he tries to move, he is shocked to see a pair of small, pudgy hands reaching up into his field of vision. His eyes snap wide open as he stares at his surroundings with a mixture of terror and disbelief. Lying in a soft crib, Li Cheol stares at his new, tiny hands and realizes that he has been reborn into the past as an infant. The infant version of the protagonist stares up in shock as he hears his father suggesting Young as a childhood name for him. Standing tall and imposing, the prime version of Li Taishan orders butler Choi that the infant be provided with a handmaid and guarded by members of the elite Shadow Sword Squad. He orders the newborn to participate in the legendary steel selection ritual, alongside the clan's 8th child. However, butler Choi is visibly taken aback by the suddenness of the order. He points out that there is even a significant age gap between this infant and the 8th miss. He worries that forcing the ritual so early might be too much for the newborn to handle. The patriarch dismisses the butler's concerns, stating that a true member of the Li clan must overcome any obstacle. Without offering any comfort, Li Teshin turns his back on the crib and prepares to depart. The room falls quiet as the powerful presence of the patriarch fades away, leaving Li Chiol alone in the shadows. The infant lets out a long, shaky breath of relief as the suffocating pressure in the room finally lifts. He reflects on the terrifying aura his father exuded even back then. Chiol lifts his tiny pudgy hands and examines them, noting that the physical sensations are far too vivid for a dream. He thinks back to the specific details of the conversation he just overheard regarding the steel selection ritual. He finally accepts that he has somehow regressed into his own past. He finds himself wishing that this was all just a hallucination. As the path ahead is fraught with pain, a few months have passed since Li Chiol returned to the past, and a very important day for the martial Li clan has finally arrived. This day marks the beginning of the steel selection ritual, a legendary event that determines a child's future. During this ceremony, children are chosen by weapons that reflect their innate talent and potential. He recalls that his father was a legendary figure who was chosen by dozens of blades in his prime. His eldest brother was equally impressive, having been selected by a variety of weapons, including swords and magical tomes. Now, it is Li Chiol's turn to participate, though he finds his traditional infant clothing quite annoying. His handmaid admires his appearance, complimenting how well-dressed the young master looks for the occasion. Manga, his dedicated handmaid, expresses her firm belief that he will achieve an excellent result today. She smiles warmly at him, certain that a very successful life is waiting for him in the future. Li Chiol remembers that she was like a mother to him, but in his past life she was cruelly driven away by his brothers. He vividly recalls the heartbreaking moment she was forced out of the estate, standing alone in the pouring rain. She was the only person who truly cared for his well-being and stayed with him through his darkest times. Looking at her now, Li Chiol is determined to change her fate and protect her at any cost. Feeling the baby's touch, the handmaid pulls him into a gentle and loving embrace. As she pulls him into an embrace, a servant arrives to announce that the preparations are ready for the steel selection ritual. Moon Gawa asks him if he's prepared to face his destiny. Butler Choi informs the patriarch that all the necessary preparations for the ceremony are finally finished. The patriarch acknowledges the news and commandingly orders everyone to move out and begin the day's events. A row of loyal handmaids stands in silent attendance, waiting for the ceremony to commence. The patriarch walks past the line of servants, his powerful presence felt by everyone as he heads toward the ritual grounds. The entire group makes their way through the grand halls toward the massive arena where the ritual will take place. They arrive at a colossal open-air stadium, where a vast collection of weapons is laid out in the center for the upcoming selection. Members of the clan whisper among themselves as they catch their first glimpse of the illegitimate child. They gossip about his origins, noting that he is the son brought into the family from the outside world. The matriarch of the clan, Baek Hwayan, watches the proceedings with a sharp and calculating gaze. Minister Li Juchong observes the scene with his chin in his hand, appearing intrigued by the unusual circumstances. The clan's first child, Li Myungjung, and the third child, Li Gunsong, are also present to witness their new sibling's trial. The minister remarks on the infant's surprisingly young age for such a demanding ritual. Myungjung points out that none of the other siblings were forced to participate in the ceremony, while they were still so small. He specifically asks Gunseong for his thoughts on the patriarch's unusual decision. Gunseong gives a reluctant and disinterested reply, seemingly bored by the conversation. He expresses his disdain for the newcomer, claiming he has no idea where this mysterious child even came from. With a powerful shout and a raised hand, he commands the attention of the entire arena as the ceremony kicks off. The patriarch sternly commands his subordinates to bring Li Hua forward for the ritual. Li Hua looks around in total confusion, startled by the sudden call to the center of the massive stadium. Li Tashin seems to carry a sharp object in his pocket. He holds a sharp, small blade with a serious expression, preparing for the next step of the ancient ritual. The patriarch gently takes Li Hua's small hand in his own, preparing to perform the necessary blood offering to wake the weapons. A small cut is made on the child's finger, causing her to burst into loud, tearful cries from the sudden sting. A single drop of blood is drawn to initiate the legendary weapon selection process. The blood offering reacts instantly, triggering a brilliant surge of blue magical energy that swirls across the arena floor. The legendary ivory sword, a masterpiece that has remained silent for generations, finally reveals itself. It stands tall and radiant, choosing Li Hua as its new master in a stunning display of power. Li Tashin extends his hand, channeling his own energy to guide the legendary weapon toward Li Hua. With a swift and powerful movement, the patriarch catches one of the descending blades to finalize the selection. Li Taishan holds the crying child and the radiant ivory sword, officially declaring that the legendary weapon now belongs to Li Hua. The onlookers congratulate Baek Hwayan, calling it a truly momentous occasion for the entire clan. The matriarch, Baek Hwayan, smiles graciously as she accepts compliments from the gathered guests about her daughter. The focus shifts back to the ongoing ceremony as the tension in the air begins to rise once more. He signals for the next child to be brought to the center of the arena. The crowd's mood shifts as they catch sight of the next participant, identifying him as the illegitimate child from the outside. The infant Li Qiao looks up with wide, curious eyes as his father's large hand reaches down toward him. Li Teshin holds the small baby firmly, positioning him above the ancient ritual altar. A sharp blade is brought close to the infant's tiny hand, ready to draw the blood necessary for the selection. Li Qiao remains remarkably calm, looking down at his son. The patriarch expresses a sense of pride in the child's stoic behavior. A vision of a magnificent weapon flashes through his mind as he remembers his previous life's selection. He recalls being chosen by the Clear Echo, a legendary heaven-rank sword that marked him as a genius before his body failed him. A single drop of blood finally falls from the infant's finger, descending toward the ritual surface with agonizing slowness. The moment the blood touches the altar, a massive explosion of brilliant blue energy erupts, far surpassing the display seen earlier. He is no longer just a helpless baby but a regressor. He is determined to claim his rightful place in the world this time. Onlookers whisper about the illegitimate child, questioning why a bastard is even allowed to participate in the ritual. Li Juchong remains silent and tense as he carefully observes the unfolding scene. The matriarch sits with a cold and displeased expression, making her foul mood obvious to everyone present. Juchong reflects on his brother's hidden son, finding the child's existence to be a natural but complicated development. Looking down from the balcony, Juchong predicts a tragic and difficult fate for the young boy. He notes how nearly impossible it will be for an illegitimate son to survive within the ruthless clan hierarchy. A sudden step forward signals the arrival of a new and imposing presence. The head elder points out Yu Chong's interest in the child, while Ju Chong internally insults the old man's narrow-minded traditionalism. The esteemed head elder of the martial Li clan, Li Qiuzhang, reveals his stern and authoritative gaze. Ju Chong respectfully greets the head elder, while mentally bracing himself to stay alert against the unpredictable old man. The head elder asks if this is the child brought in by the patriarch, and Ju Chong confirms he was found by the Shadow Sword squad. The elder expresses his disapproval, questioning why a child of such low birth is allowed to participate in their sacred ceremony. The old man mockingly reminds Ju Chong that the ritual is useless for illegitimate children, referencing Ju Chong's own past failure. Boiling with anger, Yu Chong demands to know what the elder just said while clenching his fist. The elder mockingly apologizes, stating that Ju Chong's famous failure to be chosen by even a single weapon is well known. He dismissively declares that an illegitimate child will never be more than what they are. The elder slams his cane onto the ground with force to emphasize his authoritative insult. With a cold and stern expression, the elder insists that the young boy must be taught his proper place. Ju Chong grits his teeth in silent murderous rage as he endures the elder's blatant disrespect. Ju Chong explodes in fury, shouting that he will no longer tolerate the elder's constant insults. Their argument is suddenly cut short as both men turn in shock toward a blinding light. They stand in utter disbelief as a massive pillar of light erupts from the center of the ritual arena. The head elder's eyes tremble with pure shock as he wonders how such an impossible event could be happening. Ju Chong is left completely stunned, shouting out in bewilderment at the incredible display of power. Even while seeing it for himself, Yu Chong remains deeply bewildered by the impossible scene unfolding before him. A colossal pillar of divine light pierces through the sky, signaling an unprecedented event in the clan's history. The entire arena is consumed by a blinding glow as the ritual reaches a level of power never seen before. High-ranking weapons like the Sanguine Spirit Spear and Iron-Welded Blade begin to glow and react to the child's overwhelming power. Even legendary relics, including the Divine Sword Mahu and the responsive Dragon Crossbow, are drawn toward the massive energy. The crowd is left in absolute disbelief as even weapons that already have owners start responding to the infant's presence. Li Myungjung struggles to maintain his grip as his own sword begins to vibrate and pull away toward the ritual arena. He stares at his glowing weapon in total confusion, wondering how such an impossible phenomenon could be happening. Completely shocked by the sight, he turns to his brother Gunsong to ask if he can believe what they are witnessing. He excitedly points out that their youngest brother must possess a truly unbelievable level of talent. Gunsong watches with a troubled and serious expression, reluctantly admitting that the child's potential is undeniable. The crowd murmurs in total shock, unable to believe that an illegitimate child could trigger such an incredible reaction from the weapons. With a single authoritative command for silence, the patriarch instantly calms the chaotic arena. A heavy, expectant silence ripples through the entire stadium as all eyes turn toward the clan leader. The patriarch acknowledges that by clan law, every weapon that responded to the boy should rightfully belong to him. Standing amidst the dozens of reacting weapons, he admits the situation is complicated and asks the elders for their suggestions. From the crowd of high-ranking officials, A hand is raised as someone steps forward with a proposal. The patriarch acknowledges the speaker and asks the minister to share his idea with the rest of the clan. Juchong argues that granting so many legendary weapons to a single child goes against the true meaning of their tradition. Juchong declares that this sacred ritual is a tradition that must continue for generations. He proposes a practical solution, suggesting they allow the infant to select a single weapon for himself. The patriarch snaps his fingers in approval, finding the minister's suggestion to be a good idea. Accepting the proposal, the patriarch uses his immense mana to lift the child toward the glowing weapons. He calls out to his son as the infant is hoisted into the air by the swirling magical energy. The young boy remains calm and composed as he is carried upward by the powerful flow of mana. The patriarch encourages the child to look over the armaments and choose whichever weapon he likes. Reborn Cheol notes that while this is different from his past life, he welcomes the chance to change his fate. Clenching his small fist, he resolves to make the absolute most of this unprecedented opportunity. Determined to change his fate, the infant Cheol crawls forward while focusing on how to escape his current situation. He examines Frach, a legendary sword famously known for its history of slaying dragons. He then considers the Holy Spear, a sacred weapon forged from the body of a saintly white whale. Next, he looks upon Valheim, a staff crafted from the World Tree, and the Celestial Sword, which was forged during a rare cosmic alignment. As he gazes across the glowing arena, he realizes that an incredible collection of great weapons is waiting for his final decision. With his eyes glowing yellow, Young reaches out for a sword. The patriarch is struck with sudden realization and shock as he stares at the incredible sword the child is targeting. He describes the weapon as a mysterious relic found by their founder in unexplored lands, whose hidden power has never been understood by anyone. The infant finally makes his choice, reaching out to touch the legendary blade known as Black Twilight as it shines with a divine glow. The patriarch explains that although its power is unproven, the sword is kept with other heaven-level weapons, out of respect for their founder. Teshin notes that none of their ancestors were ever able to be chosen by this specific weapon. He questions if the infant's choice of the legendary blade is just a meaningless coincidence made by a child. The young child is pulled into a warm and protective embrace after making his impossible choice. Looking down at his son, the patriarch wonders if this extraordinary event is a sign from the skies. He officially announces that Young has chosen Black Twilight, declaring that the steel selection ritual is finally over. The matriarch acknowledges the illegitimate child's success, viewing him as a growing nuisance to her interests. She sits with a cold and hateful expression, resolving to eliminate the boy if he ever gets in her way. 9 years have passed since the miraculous events of the steel selection ritual. The story now shifts to a new chapter within the Martial Lee clan. Young calls out for his nanny as he prepares to head out for the day. He seems eager and full of energy as he starts his morning. Now 9 years old, Lee Young excitedly announces that it's time for his afternoon training session. Startled by his sudden departure, his loyal nanny, Moon Gawa, insists on escorting him. She remains deeply protective and concerned for his well-being. Young confidently tells her that he can manage on his own, but his nanny refuses to leave his side. His nanny is puzzled by his choice of training location, questioning why he is heading to the cramped Zone 1 instead of the empty, larger areas. Young cryptically mentions that someone is already waiting for him at the training zone, leaving his nanny in a state of confused silence. Upon reaching the training grounds, Gawa is surprised to find that someone is already occupied in Zone 7. An instructor barks out orders to Li Hua, warning her about her grip while pushing her to complete another grueling vertical slice. 9-year-old Li Hua, the 8th child of the clan, shouts in determination as she continues her intense training drills. Young realizes the 8th child is the one training, but his nanny quickly reminds him to use proper honorifics to avoid trouble with the clan. Internally, Young scoffs at the strict hierarchy, finding it ridiculous to call someone his older sister when they are only 5 months apart. Li Hua is pushed to her physical limits during this grueling training session, struggling to catch her breath as her instructor relentlessly demands another repetition. Frustration reaches a breaking point as the sharp sound of clashing steel echoes across the training grounds. Unable to endure the constant criticism, Li Hua explodes in anger and openly snaps at her instructor. The young girl defiantly drops her weapon and shouts in frustration, while her instructor tries to justify his strict methods. The instructor nervously attempts to soothe her temper, pleading with her to calm down and try the drill just one more time. Watching the scene from a distance, Young asks about the man struggling with the lesson, and his nanny identifies him as commander of the Ebony Squad, Baek Lee-hun. Young observes the high-ranking instructor and notes that his skills are far too advanced for teaching basic drills to a 9-year-old. His nanny looks down at him with an expression filled with deep concern and pity. Gawa tries to lift his spirits by promising that a teacher who truly recognizes his talent will appear soon. Young is momentarily startled by her sudden outburst, but calmly accepts her words. She begins to cry as she apologizes for her perceived incompetence, lamenting the fact that he doesn't have the same resources as his sister. Young sighs at her emotional display and firmly reassures her that he is always grateful for everything she does for him. As he walks away, he reflects that he has no interest in teachers, who would only seek him out because of his clan's prestigious background. He looks back with a confident smile, saying he already has some good teachers. Young arrives at the Direct Line's exclusive training area, Zone 1, known as the esteemed Marshall Hall, and steps inside. He observes that this hall, which symbolizes his clan's distinguished history, has become more of a symbolic space than a functional training area. Despite its current state, he reveals that he has a very specific reason for coming to this location. He approaches a set of heavy doors and pushes them open to reveal what lies hidden within. He explains that he chose this area because it houses a vast collection of ancient weapons, unlike the more modern training zones. After searching through the dusty racks, he finally finds a specific blade and decides to use it for his training today. Since regressing 9 years ago, Young notes that his life and body have undergone several unexpected and significant transformations. He prepares to reveal the most shocking change of all while maintaining an expression of intense focus. A mysterious blue aura and dark energy suddenly surge from his chest as he begins to channel power through his sword. Young reveals his incredible new ability to read the memories embedded in weapons, allowing him to see the fundamental basics taught by past masters. As he swings his blade, he experiences the memories of the weapon firsthand, seeing the forms of the warriors who wielded it before him. He explains that the older and more powerful the weapon is, the stronger the connection he feels to its previous owners. With his eyes glowing in a trance-like state, he witnesses the past memories more clearly and uses them to make his own sword techniques unwavering. Young perfectly executes the first form of the 7-star sword, unleashing a massive crimson wind energy slash that tears through the training hall. Young finally masters the 7-star sword after spending 2 years absorbing the memories of nearly every weapon in the hall. He is startled when a voice suddenly praises his perfected form, claiming it has been a long time since anyone has shown such skill. An imposing warrior stands in the doorway, observing the young prodigy with a calm and steady gaze. Young is surprised to find his uncle, Li Taehong, watching him with a proud and wide smile. Taehong is a powerful 4th-rank general and one of the only family members who has ever shown Young genuine kindness. Young greets him with a formal bow, but his uncle simply laughs and tells him to drop the formalities. Taehong expresses how proud he is of Young for training diligently every day, noting that he sees him whenever he leaves for work. He acknowledges how difficult it must be for the boy to face constant discrimination from his own siblings. Despite the hardships, he shares his sincere hope that his nephew will find a way to overcome these challenges. Young calmly reassures his uncle that he is doing fine and remains proud of his connection to the Li clan's bloodline. He reflects on the true meaning of their family name, which dictates that one must prove their worth through the sword. With a confident smile and glowing eyes, Young declares his firm resolve to prove himself using his own individual strength. Taehong is momentarily stunned by the boy's intense spirit, but he quickly closes his eyes in regret, lamenting the fact that such a talented child was born illegitimate. Taehong mentions that Young is nearly old enough for his naming ceremony, despite it being a bit late. He excitedly offers to be Young's teacher for the event and asks if the boy is happy with the proposal. Young unexpectedly declines the offer, leaving his uncle completely shocked and shouting in disbelief. Young reassures his uncle that he values him, but declines the offer to be his teacher to follow clan rules and avoid causing him trouble. Taehong points out the unfairness of the situation, noting how Young's siblings openly break rules to receive elite training and resources. Young firmly believes in upholding the rules despite the blatant hypocrisy of those around him. With a bright smile, Young reiterates his determination to prove his worth through his own individual strength. Taehong is struck by the boy's incredible maturity, seeing a reflection of his eldest brother in the child's intense gaze. Young maintains a confident and mysterious smile as his uncle acknowledges his extraordinary spirit. Taehong closes his eyes with a gentle smile, accepting that he cannot change the young boy's firm decision. He affectionately pats Young's head and comments on how he is just as stubborn as his father. He expresses his frustration and regret at being unable to do anything to help his nephew. He asks if there is anything else Young needs, causing the boy's eyes to sparkle as he reveals he was waiting for that offer. Young admits he has a favor to ask, and Taehong eagerly encourages him to speak his mind. A confident and knowing smile spreads across Young's face. Taehong is left completely stunned and breaks into a sweat when Young asks to see what lies beneath the clan's secret warehouse. A car arrives at the high-security warehouse gates. A guard quickly stops the vehicle at the entrance. The guard asks for their identification and the reason for their visit. Taehong identifies himself as a general and explains he is there for a routine inventory check. He introduces Li Young and claims the boy is simply joining him for a field trip. The guard confirms his identity and salutes, allowing them to pass through the gates. The car arrives at the high-security warehouse gates and passes through as the guards stand watch. Young puts on an act of pure fascination, loudly marveling at his first sight of the secret warehouse. Seeing the boy's reaction in the mirror, Tae-hong asks if he is really that excited to be here. Young enthusiastically confirms, noting that the warehouse holds all of the family's most legendary treasures. Behind his innocent smile, he internally focuses on the specific item he has come to find. The warehouse is a massive structure rumored to hold legendary weapons and ancient relics that most people believe don't even exist. It is said that anything one could possibly search for can be found within the Martial Lee clan's secret vault. Stepping inside, Young shouts in wonder as he begins to explore the vast collection of treasures with his uncle. Tae-hong presses the elevator button while explaining that the basement is used to seal away various dangerous weapons. Young excitedly mentions hearing about monster-level weapons that devour their owners, which his uncle confirms is true. Tae-hong jokingly warns that holding such a weapon will cause both the body and heart to be consumed. When asked if he is frightened, Young quickly and loudly insists that he isn't scared at all. Tae-hong reassures the boy by explaining that they are not even allowed to enter such a high-risk area. The uncle tells Young to take his time exploring while he handles his own business on the upper floors. Tae-hong waves a friendly goodbye as the elevator doors begin to shut between them. Once alone, Young drops his facade and sighs about how exhausting it is to constantly act like an innocent child. He arrives at the secret warehouse's basement, a place famously known as the Graveyard of Weapons. This restricted area serves as a vault where countless ancient weapons and relics are sealed away. Looking over the massive collection, he reveals that his true purpose for coming here is to find a specific weapon. He talks about the legendary weapon known as Boundless. Although it usually looks like a simple dagger, injecting mana allows its length, shape, and properties to be changed at will. He recalls how his third brother Lee Gunseong found this weapon in his past life and used its irregular power to earn the title of Ever-Changing. Because of that overwhelming power, his brother was able to seize the position of patriarch over the rightful heir. He remembers the dark day his brother tracked him down and purged him, reflecting on the limited information he has. Determined to change his tragic fate, he resolves to take action now to prevent history from repeating itself. Young acknowledges that, while it will be time-consuming, he must carefully inspect every weapon in the collection. He remains determined to secure the legendary Boundless before his brother can claim it in this timeline. He dismisses another weapon, realizing it isn't the one he's searching for. After an hour of searching through countless daggers, Young begins to feel frustrated that Boundless is still missing. He refuses to give up, certain that the weapon is hidden somewhere in the vault, and he simply hasn't found it yet. As he moves to check another display stand, he accidentally knocks a small, dark object onto the floor. A heavily corroded and ancient-looking piece of metal hits the ground with a dull thud. Young stares at the fallen object in disbelief, shocked by its extremely rusty and neglected condition. As Young reaches for the rusty dagger, a sudden surge of dark energy shocks him. He is startled by the sudden eruption of power and wonders why it is happening. Young is suddenly transported to a strange new location and looks around in confusion. He finds himself in a desolate wasteland filled with skeletons and asks where he is. Young realizes he is experiencing a memory from the dagger that feels incredibly real. He is suddenly struck by an intense sense of shock and alarm. The environment begins to glow with an eerie light as Young senses something massive approaching. An overwhelming presence that even nature would fear reveals itself as a terrifying, monstrous eye. The scene reveals a primal apocalypse-rank monster that emerged from a blue hole long ago and swallowed entire civilizations. Young stares in absolute horror as he is confronted by the monster's paralyzing power. Standing amidst a pile of bones, he trembles in fear as he realizes that he is going to die. He stares at the creature in utter shock, knowing there is no way he can fight or defeat such a powerful enemy. Falling to the ground in terror, he desperately decides that his only option is to run away. Young stands before a massive, blood-stained blade as heavy footsteps echo through the desolate wasteland. He is paralyzed with shock as a battle-worn spectral warrior suddenly manifests right behind him. Young falls back in terror, wondering how the massive spectral warrior managed to get behind him so quickly. A sudden burst of light signals the warrior's movement as he prepares to unleash a devastating attack. The warrior leaps up with incredible speed and readies his blade. It glows with power as he prepares to deliver a crushing blow to the apocalypse monster. The warrior prepares a single blade strike to split his enemy, unleashing the legendary split demon technique. A massive pillar of light pierces the sky as the warrior strikes with overwhelming force from above. A violent explosion of energy consumes the area, signaling the devastating impact of the attack. Young is left in total disbelief after witnessing the apocalypse-rank monster get defeated with just a single strike. Young suddenly remembers the mysterious person he encountered previously. The tall, imposing warrior stands silently in the middle of the dark wasteland. The warrior turns around and coldly asks about Young's identity. Young is frozen in shock, realizing that the spectral figure can actually see him within the memory. The warrior draws his blood-stained blade and questions why the boy has come to this place. Claiming it is a mercy, the warrior prepares to kill him painlessly as Young screams out in terror. Suddenly, everything vanishes. Young snaps back to reality in the warehouse, gasping for breath as the rusty dagger falls to the floor. Young gasps for breath, deeply shaken by the terrifying vision he just experienced. He trembles on his knees, feeling the lingering pressure of the memory as the rusty dagger smokes on the floor. He suddenly notices something incredible and moves toward the weapon with a look of pure disbelief. Confirming his suspicions, he grips the dagger and deliberately cuts his finger to test its power. With his eyes glowing yellow, Young resolves to master the legendary weapon and lead 10,000 soldiers to victory. A massive surge of blue energy erupts as Young channels power into the weapon. The blade is engulfed in a powerful aura, signaling its awakening. With his eyes glowing, he maintains an intense focus on the weapon in his hand. He swings the blade with precision, unleashing a trail of vibrant energy. He executes a powerful strike, his movements filled with newfound strength and speed. A massive slash of energy tears through the air as he tests the weapon's true power. Young is filled with excitement as he successfully identifies the legendary weapon, Boundless, the one he has been searching for all this time. Sharp training shouts echo through the air as the focus shifts toward the quiet training hall. Young catches his breath in exhaustion, frustrated after another failed attempt during his practice. A week has passed since he successfully obtained the legendary weapon known as Boundless. He explains that he used the weapon's unique properties to transform it into a ring to keep its existence a secret. Touching the ring, he remains troubled by the mysterious and terrifying vision he experienced when he first found it. He reflects on the legendary split demon technique used by the warrior in his vision, realizing he was only shown its name because Young wasn't yet ready to learn it. He admits that while the warrior's movements were incredibly graceful, he finds himself completely unable to replicate such a high-level technique. Despite his initial failure, a determined smile spreads across his face as he refuses to give up. He swings his blade with renewed focus, deciding that there is no need to rush his progress. He recalls being a talentless outcast in his past life, marveling at the fact that he is finally experiencing such advanced martial arts. With his eyes glowing with intensity, he declares his confidence, clearly remembering every detail of how the mysterious warrior moved. He suddenly pauses in shock as a realization about the mysterious man's identity strikes him. He reflects that he is currently just a 9-year-old child, unlike the powerful adult warrior from his vision. He realizes that trying to copy the movements of a full-grown adult is completely inefficient for his young body. He resolves to adapt the techniques to fit his own physical limits, focusing on moving slowly and naturally. Young closes his eyes and enters a state of deep concentration to find the right flow for his movements. He channels his power and swings his blade in a way that feels perfectly suited for his current body. He unleashes a devastating downward strike that shatters the training hall floor with incredible force. Seeing the results of his training, Young excitedly realizes that he is finally getting the hang of the technique. With the physical form mastered, he realizes his next major challenge is solving his mana utilization problem. He struggles to replicate his past mana techniques and feels like he is missing a crucial piece of information. Exhausted from his training, he resolves to keep pushing forward despite the constant failures. A mysterious figure watches from the shadows with a sinister smile. Young continues his practice, swinging his sword with intense focus and determination. He grips his blade tightly, pouring all his strength into perfecting his form. Young is suddenly caught off guard as a mysterious voice addresses him. A woman with glowing yellow eyes looms over him, demanding to know where he learned such an advanced technique. Young is caught off guard by a presence behind him and wonders if she is a direct descendant of his clan. The mysterious woman asks if he truly doesn't recognize her as she stares back at him. She laughs off his confusion, explaining that she rarely leaves her quarters and isn't well known. Leaning in with a friendly smile, she asks for his name, and he identifies himself as Young. She enthusiastically greets him while swinging him around, and he realizes she is actually his youngest aunt, Lee Gyum-ha. Young recalls his uncle once mentioning that she was an eccentric woman who even his grandfather disliked. He tries to shift his focus back to the situation at hand as he regains his composure. Kyung-ha notes how fragile he seems, while Young internally fumes over her overwhelming and reckless strength. She addresses the young boy as she continues to observe him. She leans in with a mysterious smile, asking where he managed to learn such an advanced skill. Young is visibly confused and questions why she is so interested in his training. Kyung-ha excitedly explains that she recognized his use of ancient martial arts and is deeply curious about it. She mentions the history of ancient monsters while reaching into her sleeve for a hidden item. With a cheerful flourish, she presents a mysterious and weathered old book as a gift for him. Young is surprised by the sudden present, but his aunt encourages him to open it and see what is inside. He is stunned to find that the book contains secret mana techniques and ancient martial arts knowledge. He realizes the book's content is extremely advanced and begins to doubt the negative rumors he heard about his aunt. His aunt points out a specific section, explaining that these are ancient mana techniques centered on using mana paths. She explains that modern techniques store mana in the heart, but questions if it is right to dismiss the old ways as garbage. Stunned by this new perspective, Young admits that he had never considered such an approach before. His aunt suggests that the mana techniques used in the past might have actually been superior to current methods. She notes the lack of records for transformation techniques, while Young realizes he is holding the key to Boundless's mana utilization. He suddenly rushes away to test the theory, leaving his aunt confused as she asks what he is doing. Standing alone, Young focuses on spreading mana from his circle throughout his entire body. He concentrates on utilizing only his mana paths, while actively preventing the energy from returning to his mana circle. He realizes he has finally found the specific mana technique he couldn't understand before. Filled with sudden confidence, he prepares a strike, certain that this new method will finally work. Young unleashes a powerful downward strike that shatters the training hall floor with a massive explosion of energy. As the dust clears, both Young and his aunt are left in a state of pure shock at the sheer power of the attack. Young celebrates his success, thrilled that his attempt was a complete triumph. His aunt rushes over in total disbelief, grabbing him and demanding to know if that was an amplification technique. She leans in close with an intense expression, desperately asking how he managed to perform such a feat. Young casually dismisses her, stating he simply did it and questioning why he should have to explain his secrets to her. Distraught, his aunt explains that she has spent over 10 years trying to master that notebook, even after being kicked out. She begs him to tell her the secret, while Young watches her with a silent and thoughtful expression. Young decides to negotiate, telling his aunt that she must first promise to do 3 things for him. When she asks for the conditions, he tells her that his first rule is that she must never talk to others about him without his permission. He specifies that this includes his father and eldest brother, explaining that he hates the idea of people gossiping about him. She agrees to the terms, but Young notices a look of sadness on her face as she nods. For his second condition, he demands that she never lie to him again, so that they can truly trust each other. His aunt groans in frustration, clearly finding his strict demands to be a headache. She quickly recovers her energy and eagerly asks what the final condition is. Young raises a finger and prepares to reveal the final requirement of their agreement, but it hasn't been revealed to us yet. 1 year has passed, and Nanny Gawa rushes toward Young while he is busy practicing with his sword. Now 10 years old, Young is surprised by his nanny's sudden arrival, while his aunt Youngha stands right behind him. Gawa urgently presents an envelope and encourages the young master to see what is inside. Young finally receives the long-awaited letter, as his curious aunt looks over his shoulder to see what it is. He realizes it is an official summons order for his upcoming naming ceremony, signed by the proxy patriarch. He is taken aback after noticing that his eldest brother, Lee Myung-jung, is currently acting as the proxy patriarch. He wonders if his father is away on an expedition, while his aunt begins to tremble with intense emotion in the background. Kyunha explodes in a fiery rage at the mention of the naming ceremony, leaving Young completely startled. Young asks what is wrong as his aunt frantically claims she needs his guidance now more than ever. It has been a year since their deal to research mana techniques, and Youngha throws a tantrum, begging him not to leave for the ceremony. A diagram illustrates the difference between modern mana techniques centered on the heart or mana circle and ancient methods that utilize mana paths throughout the body. Kyungha's dream was always to successfully combine these 2 powerful methods. Young explains how combining these techniques allows him to use mana much more efficiently than his peers, while Kyungha sadly asks if he truly has to leave. She pleads with him to stay, suggesting that continuing their research together would be far more enjoyable than his official duties. She starts to tear up, knowing he must depart but clearly struggling to accept the separation. Young reassures his aunt that their work won't stop, leaving her looking completely baffled and confused. She questions how he will find the time, pointing out that his upcoming lessons will be extremely demanding. Holding his official summons, Young confidently declares his intent to train in both modern and ancient techniques simultaneously. The day's training officially begins as Young and Hua are placed inside capsules to endure 30 minutes of continuous magic attacks. Instructor Jang Wook notices that something is different once again as he observes the training. He previously expected the ninth son to fail immediately since the boy had never received any basic training. However, the child is currently using advanced mana techniques to effortlessly deflect every incoming attack. Jang Wook is visibly shaken as he witnesses the boy's intense focus and glowing yellow eyes firsthand. Despite being a 10-year-old illegitimate child, he is actively testing his skills against the 8th daughter and demanding more difficult lessons. The instructor realizes that continuing to look down on the boy's birth status would be an insult to his incredible talent. He clenches his fist and resolves to reflect on his own past behavior after underestimating the young prodigy. He vows to do his absolute best to teach the boy everything he knows, far beyond what is required for the upcoming ceremony. Young takes a moment to stretch and loosen up his body after the intense training session. He reflects on the insanity of his household, where children are thrown into devices that blast them with magic just to build resistance. He remains calm as he processes the harsh methods used by the clan to train their heirs. He notes that while he didn't expect an apology from the instructor, he did notice a slight change in the man's tone toward him. Deciding he has done enough for now, Young mentions that he is going to take a short rest. Suddenly, Li Hua lunges forward and grabs Young from behind in a fit of rage. Hua insults him, calling him a bastard as her frustration finally boils over. She demands that they have a serious talk right now. Young quickly reacts, shoving her hand away and asking her what she thinks she is trying to do. She reminds him that she is a legitimate child and is a year older than him, telling him to watch his mouth. Young dismisses her, stating that he has no time to talk and doesn't want to deal with her outburst. She screams at him not to ignore her, and Young is surprised to see that she is actually using mana against him. He initially wanted to just ignore her, but her persistence and use of power force him to pay attention. Young moves with incredible speed, easily outmaneuvering Hua's attempt to strike him. In an instant, he closes the distance and seizes Hua by the neck, completely neutralizing her. He coldly tells her that if she wants to whine and cry, she should go do it in her mother's arms, instead of bothering him. He shoves her aside, making it clear that he is far too busy to waste time on her tantrums. Hua blames him for everything, claiming that his performance at the steel selection ritual has caused everyone to constantly compare her to him. She tells him to vanish just like other illegitimate childs. She screams that it's not fair. She can't sleep, she doesn't get her snacks, and she must constantly train because of him. She laments how hard she works while he was simply born with natural talent. She starts to mention her mother but stops herself, her eyes widening as she realizes the weight of her words. Young remarks on how convenient it must be to blame others, pointing out that as a bastard, he doesn't have the same luxuries she does. He tells her that if she can't sleep or eat enough to catch up to him, then she should simply stop doing those things. He tells her that if she truly resents him, she should do whatever it takes to surpass him, as that is the only way to get an apology in their family. Left behind, Hua clenches her fist in a silent rage, calling him an arrogant bastard. She vows to do much better than him at the naming ceremony and make him beg for forgiveness. Young looks back with a confident smile, telling her that he will be looking forward to seeing her try. A sign indicates that Section 7 is a restricted training hall reserved only for those of direct lineage. The matriarch of the clan, Bei Huayan, is respectfully welcomed as she arrives at the training hall. Huayan dismisses the servants, stating that she needs to have a private conversation with her daughter. Inside the hall, Hua continues her rigorous training as her mother silently observes her from the entrance. Hua is visibly startled when her mother suddenly questions what she is doing. She nervously explains she was training, but Huayan coldly reveals that she already heard about her daughter's recent loss. She reminds her daughter of her previous instruction to always crush her rivals. Expressing deep disappointment, she tells Hua to quit training if she is only doing it to avoid being scolded. Hua surprises her mother by firmly declaring that she is training because she genuinely wants to, not just out of fear. Determined to succeed on her own terms, she vows to defeat her opponent because of her own personal desire. Huayan questions if her daughter is actually finding motivation because of an illegitimate child. Hua stammers, unable to immediately find the words to respond to her mother's sharp accusation. She asserts their superior status, telling Hua that winning should be expected, and that being motivated by someone beneath her is unacceptable. Huayan produces a mysterious small glass vial. She identifies the substance as a lethal poison known as dreamlike trance, leaving Hua in a state of shock. Huayan commands her daughter to trample her rival if she finds herself unable to surpass him through skill alone. The matriarch walks away, after declaring that such ruthless tactics are simply the way of their family. The scene opens with a view of the grand and traditional estate belonging to the Marshall Lee clan. Young's nanny is left completely speechless and trembling as she stares at a shocking document in her hands. Young presents his 14th week report card, revealing that he has achieved rank 1 in every single category, including mana and weapon arts. Overwhelmed with emotion, the nanny pulls Young into a tight embrace, praising his incredible hard work despite her feeling she hasn't done enough for him. Their peaceful moment is suddenly interrupted as they both turn toward a loud noise at the door. His aunt Young Ha bursts into the room with high energy, excitedly shouting for the boy to come out and train. Young mentions he just finished training, but his aunt dismissively claims that practicing mana arts is actually the best way to relieve fatigue. Young is left looking drained and skeptical, while his nanny admits she has never heard of such a strange training effect. He lets out a heavy sigh and decides it's the perfect time to show his aunt the progress he has made. Kyungha's eyes widen in pure shock as she realizes something unbelievable is happening right before her eyes. She shouts in total disbelief, unable to comprehend that Young has already managed to attain his very first star. Young explains that practitioners typically undergo 3 stages of mana arts, starting with the iron body stage to strengthen the physical form. Next is the qigong stage, where the very nature of one's mana is altered. Finally, the extraordinary ability stage allows a warrior to manifest supernatural powers through their mana. He notes that his aunt's mana arts are unique, utilizing different abilities even at the first stage, which is why her progression is measured in stars. She excitedly confirms that Young has achieved the 1-star rank, and expresses surprise that he mastered the awkward mana paths so quickly. Young recalls the intense and dangerous training he endured, admitting that he nearly lost control of the delicate balance between his mana circle and paths. He realizes that he should have let the energy flow naturally, just like water. Kyung-ha reflects on the revelation that the human body itself serves as a vehicle for mana. She confidently declares that she believes she can master this technique as well, even if it takes a long time. Young feels a sense of relief that his aunt has finally grasped the fundamental concept of their research. Overjoyed, his aunt pulls Young into a bone-crushing hug, causing him to cry out in pain as his ribs are squeezed. Despite Young feeling like he was about to die from the hug, his aunt is already eager to push forward and begin training for the 2-star rank. Kyung-ha points out that the 1-star rank he achieved is fundamentally different from the traditional first stage, and Young calmly confirms he understands. His aunt asks what he thinks he is best at, and Young begins to answer that it is swordsmanship. She quickly disagrees with his assessment, catching the young boy off guard. Kyung-ha claims that she has watched him train with swords several times out of boredom, even though he never noticed her. She explains that he possesses a special talent that is far more outstanding than his skills with a blade. Young is left speechless when his aunt reveals that his greatest strength is actually his mana arts. As Kyung-ha praises his incredible talent, Young reflects on how he was ridiculed for having no mana in his past life. She points out that attaining a 2-star rank will be easy for someone with his level of potential. His aunt confidently declares that the upcoming naming ceremony will be a piece of cake for him. They share a lighthearted moment as Kyung-ha tells him to focus so she can teach him proper techniques. Young notices something unusual next to his aunt and asks her what it is. She looks down curiously to see what has caught the young boy's attention. She smiles brightly as she prepares to explain the object to him. A metal marble is suddenly fired with extreme speed, leaving a blue trail of energy as it pierces through its target. She laughs and identifies the projectiles as simple metal marbles. She explains that he must learn to move while releasing mana, as using techniques while standing still is useless. She asks if they should begin the lesson, leaving Young looking a bit apprehensive about the intense training ahead. A formidable new instructor arrives at the training grounds to meet with Yan and Li Hua. The man introduces himself as Li Zhongquan, the Blood Tiger squad leader, and announces he will teach them the clan's secret techniques. Jun Quan commands the children to choose their preferred weapons and step forward. He gives them exactly 1 minute to prepare, and both children quickly acknowledge his authority. Hua glances at Young with a look of suspicion as they prepare for the lesson. Young snaps at Hua for staring, but she quickly denies having anything to say to him. Then Hua asks if he actually uses the sword he's holding. Young bluntly tells her no. Young walks off with a massive pile of different weapons, leaving Hua completely baffled by his behavior. The instructor is confused by the sight and asks Young exactly what he thinks he is doing. Young calmly explains that he is simply bringing all the weapons he intends to use for the training. Junquan can only stare at the boy in a state of stunned, silent disbelief. The instructor insults Young, convinced that the boy is a complete idiot for bringing so many armaments. Readied for the lesson, Junquan tells the children to pay close attention to his next words. He clarifies that today's training isn't about learning basic postures or skills. With a sharp gaze, he mentions the legendary secret arts of enlightenment held by the martial Li clan. He explains that mastering those arts requires the basics of awakening the sixth sense hidden within their bloodline. Declaring that he will awaken their sixth sense now, the instructor forces the children into a defensive stance. Hua asks about what the instructor is actually going to do. Young warns Hua to prepare or face being knocked unconscious immediately. Suddenly, Young is caught off guard as the instructor suddenly lunges forward with incredible speed. He is left in total shock after witnessing the instructor's movement. A violent explosion of energy erupts as the instructor delivers a crushing blow toward the young boy. Jun Quan is visibly impressed, acknowledging that the boy actually managed to block his powerful strike. Young grits his teeth in frustration, hating that he has to go through this insane training method once again. As his foot shatters the ground under the pressure, he reflects on how he missed out on this proper training in his past life. Young swings his blade and resolves that this life will have a different outcome. The training intensifies as Junquan continues to push both children to their absolute limits with his relentless strikes. Young and Hua both are sent crashing across the training hall floor after taking another powerful hit from the instructor. A month has passed since they began their grueling training under Li Zhongquan's demanding supervision. Young reflects on the brutality of their lessons, where training so hard it causes broken bones and internal injuries is the norm. While he knows this isn't normal for a 10-year-old, Young refuses to whine and confidently notes that he's finally getting the hang of it. Hua gasps in shock as she suddenly regains consciousness on the training floor. She asks if she passed out again, and Young reveals that this is her 22nd time while he has only passed out 16 times. Jun Quan observes that Hua has an incredibly sturdy body, noting that she hasn't been seriously injured despite his heavy attacks. The instructor turns his attention to Young, reflecting that he sensed the illegitimate child's extraordinary potential from the very first day. He admits he initially doubted the boy for bringing so many weapons, but is now impressed by his proficiency and ability to utilize them all. After a month of grueling lessons, Jun Quan notes with interest that Young is finally starting to master the training. The instructor commands the exhausted children back to their positions as he prepares to resume their relentless training session. Young and Hua struggle to catch their breath as they endure another grueling training session. Young suddenly calls out to Hua, catching her completely off guard. Young proposes a plan to work together for a counterattack, but Hua remains skeptical about helping him. Despite her hesitation, Hua grits her teeth and prepares to follow through with the plan. Hua asks for confirmation, and Young confidently assures her that the plan will work. Hua charges forward with her sword, demanding that Young repay her for this risky cooperation. Young realizes that his current skill level isn't enough to defeat the instructor on his own. He decides to use their numerical advantage to create an opening against the formidable instructor. The instructor acknowledges their teamwork, finding their decision to coordinate a clever move. He warns them that their plan only works if it succeeds, preparing to counter their combined assault. Jun Quan immediately launches a powerful follow-up strike, challenging them to defend themselves. The instructor lets out a surprised sound as he observes the children's persistence. The instructor lunges forward with his spear, using the momentum to close the distance. Both children unleash a coordinated strike, forcing the instructor onto the defensive. Young shouts the signal for their final move as he puts all his strength into the attack. Hua screams with determination as she swings her blade with full force. Young is forced back by the sheer pressure of the instructor's defense. Young realizes that a standard approach won't work and prepares his secret technique. He channels the power of the ultimate technique he learned from the legendary weapon, Boundless. Young executes the devastating split demon technique, surprising everyone with his sudden burst of power. The instructor is left in total shock as he barely manages to react to the high-level attack. The powerful technique connects, creating a massive shockwave across the training hall. Young is filled with confidence, certain that his adapted technique will finally be successful. The instructor is forced to use his own power to stop the young boy's incredible momentum. Young lets out a small laugh, satisfied with the results of his gamble. But to Young's complete surprise, the instructor manages to block his technique with his hand. Suddenly, the instructor sends him crashing down with massive force, leaving him in total shock. He is slammed into the wall, coughing up blood from the overwhelming force of the instructor's counter. It has been 37 days since they began their intense training under Jun Quan. The instructor proudly congratulates the young boy for finally awakening his sixth sense. Suddenly, Hua charges at the instructor while distracted. The instructor easily dodges the attack and tells her she still has a long way to go. Exhausted and battered, the children listen as the instructor finally ends the day's session. While the instructor reflects, Hua's spirit remains furious at Young for the outcome of his plan. The instructor realized he had to break his own rule and use mana to block Young's attack. Though he used only a little mana, Young managed to deal some damage. He is deeply impressed by Young's combat sense, predicting that the clan elders will soon have reason to fear the boy's potential. Hua awakens her sixth sense on the 47th day, 10 days after Young. They finish their lessons, and Young uses his free time to master his new skills. Young is suddenly approached by a familiar face who addresses him by name. He is surprised to see his eldest brother, Li Myung-jung, arriving to visit him. Myung-jung is a highly skilled warrior known as the Twin Star, holding high ranks in both magic and martial arts. Young recalls how Myung-jung was respected and feared by many, but was always a kind and supportive brother to him. Myung-jung apologizes for his absence, but Young politely reassures him that it is perfectly fine. The eldest brother is impressed that Young was able to identify him immediately despite their lack of contact. Young explains that he could never forget the face of his eldest brother, even though they are half-brothers. Myung-jung tells him not to use the term half-brother, asserting that they are true siblings and noting the boy's strict self-discipline. Young apologizes for his wording, but Myung-jung kindly tells him that no apology is necessary. He encourages Young to be less formal, and the boy reflects on how kind his brother has always been. Myung-jung gives him a special gift he received years ago while studying at France's Eiffel University, believing it will be more useful to his younger brother. He reveals the gift is a legendary medicine known as nectar, often referred to as the wine of the gods. Young is shocked by the gift's value, knowing that only 500 milliliters is produced each year in France's Magic Tower. Filled with gratitude, Young sincerely thanks Myungjung for the generous and powerful gift. Myungjung notes that Young seems different from his other siblings, sparking the young boy's curiosity. He explains that while most of his siblings view him as a rival, he finds Young's friendly attitude refreshing. Young surprises his brother by telling him he is mistaken about his lack of competitive spirit. He clarifies that as a member of the Lee clan, he definitely sees his eldest brother as a rival. He boldly declares that he aims to become Myungjung's greatest rival and looks forward to their future competition. Myungjung bursts into laughter, clearly amused and impressed by his younger brother's ambitious declaration. He accepts the challenge with a smile, promising to look forward to the day they truly compete as equals. Young feels the genuine care from his brother and resolves to protect him in this new life. A few days later, the day arrives for the Martial Lee clan's second trial, the naming ceremony. They arrive at the Red and Blue Island, a legendary site where the land changes color based on the amount of mana in the air. An instructor begins explaining the essential rules and details the children need to know for the naming ceremony. To prove their worth, the two children are told they must survive on the island for 3 full weeks. They are given tracking devices to monitor their locations and are ordered to wear them at all times. The instructor explains that the trial chamber will only open for 2 days once the 3-week survival period ends. The children are left on the shore with their supplies, as the instructor wishes them luck on their mission. Once they are alone on the beach, Hua turns to Young and mentions that she has something she wants to say to him. Young asks if she has finally made a decision, leaving her looking completely confused by his sudden question. He reveals he knew she had something on her mind since their education began, which leaves Hua shouting in shock. He looks at her with a knowing expression, implying that her intentions were obvious to him. He encourages her to speak her mind, promising to at least listen to what she has to say. Hua reaches for her tracker and removes it. With a silent gesture, she signals for Young to untie his tracking device and put it away so they can speak privately. Young quickly complies and asks what is going on as they stand alone on the beach. Hua reveals a vial of a lethal poison known as dreamlike trance. Young is left in total shock as he stares at the dangerous substance in his sister's hand. She explains the poison's specific properties, noting it is designed to cause long-term mana path malfunctions, especially in children. With a serious expression, Young asks who gave her such a dangerous item. Hua firmly refuses to reveal the source of the poison while holding the vial tightly. In a sudden move, she smashes the vial against a rock, destroying the poison instantly. She points out that the evidence is now gone, proving her resolve to Young. She boldly declares that she will defeat him fair and square, without relying on such underhanded methods. She demands that Young take the upcoming test seriously and face her with all of his might. Young smiles confidently, noting that he was already planning to give it his all. Both children share a moment of mutual respect and determination as they prepare to begin the trial. Hua asks if Young is ready to challenge the island's center and warns him about the dangers there, urging him to stay on the outskirts until he adjusts to the environment. Young replies that he already knows and asks if she is that worried about him. She angrily denies being worried about him, claiming she just wants to settle their score before anything happens to him. As strange events begin on the island, Hua tells him to stay alive while they split up and begin their trials. She announces her departure as she starts her own journey across the island. Once alone, Young notes that unlike her, he has no intention of staying on the outskirts of the island. He strikes his fist against his palm, signaling that he is finally ready to begin his mission. With a confident grin, he declares his intent to head straight for the dangerous center of the island. Meanwhile, the high-ranking observers note that Hua is performing quite well and has already completed her first hunting assignment. They are astonished by the high number of animals she has defeated, especially since this is her very first practical field experience. The head elder claims her success was inevitable given her background, asserting that there was no way she would underperform. Instructor Jun Kwan stands in the background as he confirms that it has been 47 days since their training began. He notes that Hua wasn't originally at this level of skill and was expected to take at least 2 full months to reach it. He explains that while she was always talented, someone's provocation pushed her to improve at a much faster rate. The focus shifts to Young as he carefully navigates his way through the dense jungle. The head elder questions the boy's actions, and Jun Kwan observes that Young seems to be searching for a place to use as a hideout. The onlookers mock Young for choosing to hide like a rat, calling him a coward and questioning his worth as a member of the Lee clan. A firm voice suddenly commands the others to stop their disrespectful comments. Myungjung defends Young's actions, arguing that seeking a hideout in a dangerous environment is a strategic move, rather than something to be criticized for. The clan members note that their expectations have been set incredibly high following Li Hua's impressive performance. The elder, Cheol-jung, remarks that being average is considered a sin within the prestigious martial Lee clan. He asks for confirmation on this harsh clan philosophy. He adds that seeing a member of their family do something mediocre is a hilarious sight. Myung-jung internally criticizes the clan for falling low enough to mock a child's background. He wonders if the clan has always been this cruel to its own members. He questions what Young could possibly be thinking by heading straight for the center of the island. He shares this concern, noting that he isn't the only one worried about the boy's plan. Young's uncle is equally concerned. Young finds a cave that seems adequate for his needs and prepares to enter. He begins burning medicinal herbs and uses large leaves to block the cave entrance. The observers find the boy's concealment skills to be quite impressive as they watch the monitors. The head elder is suddenly surprised by Young's next unexpected move. Everyone watches in confusion as the boy begins to unbuckle his tracking device. Young sets the watch aside, ensuring his actions on the island remain secret. The observers are shocked by the young boy's audacity to go off-grid during the trial. The monitoring screens flicker as the tracking signals are successfully obscured. Jun Kwan can't help but let out a laugh at the boy's bold behavior. He finds Young's unpredictable nature hilarious, while the other elders react with frustration. Young decides there's absolutely no way he will let anyone know he owns the Boundless. He reveals that he is now capable of utilizing Boundless. He resolves to salvage as many resources as possible while he is stationed on the island. With a confident grin, he declares that it is finally time to get started. Young makes a face of pure disgust as he prepares his next survival concoction. A pot of mana herbs boils violently over the fire, releasing an eerie blue vapor. He hesitates to drink the grotesque tea, noting that no one would believe it was made from mana herbs. Reflecting on his past poverty, he is grateful he learned this specific recipe from a druggist. His aunt, of course. Recalling her advice about the island's mana, he hopes the tea will make his training more effective. He takes a deep breath and prepares himself to swallow the disgusting liquid. The empty bowl clatters and rolls across the floor after he finishes the drink. He slumps against a rock from the hellish taste, marking the start of his lonely 3-week survival fight. The focus shifts to the 18th day of the naming ceremony at Lee Myung-jung's office. A visitor asks for permission to enter, and Myung-jung welcomes him in. He tells the man his interruption is fine, but quickly senses that he is bringing bad news. Vice leader Yu Jang-hyun reports that a large group of vagabonds has recently entered the northern regions. He notes that the group is heading directly south rather than traveling through the unexplored lands. He also observes they are moving toward the Lee clan's Manastone mines, which are 2 days away. Myung-jung suspects the vagabonds, those hyena-like bastard criminals, usually travel through the unexplored lands while committing all kinds of crimes. He believes there must be some kind of scheme behind this for them to enter their territories. The vice leader warns that the vagabonds might be in disguise and suspects another force is behind their movements. He reports that the Nine Dragons stronghold is also mobilizing its forces toward the northern borders. The Nine Dragons stronghold is a massive organization that shares a border with the Lee clan and frequently provokes them. Myung-jung realizes enemies are taking advantage of his father's absence and asks if their intelligence branch is aware of the situation. The vice leader explains his early discovery was due to specific orders, and Myung-jung commands him to cooperate with intelligence for further investigation. Looking out the window, he remains suspicious that there is a deeper scheme at play. He stares into the distance, hoping that his ominous premonition is nothing more than a bad feeling. Under the full moon, a mysterious red magic circle begins to glow deep within the forest of the Red and Blue Island. The circle activates, releasing a powerful surge of energy that illuminates the surrounding trees. The immense power causes the very fabric of space to crack and shatter above the glowing seal. A shadowy figure watches with a sinister grin, as a legendary staff begins to emerge from a swirling portal. The mysterious man confidently states that 2 nights will be more than enough time to eliminate the illegitimate child. As the trial continues, massive tremors shake the vibrant landscape of the island. A colossal beast makes its presence known, its massive weight shattering the earth with every step. A fearsome 7th-rank monster dragon known as Draco appears, letting out a terrifying roar. Exhausted and covered in dirt, Young stands his ground against the massive beast, breathing heavily as he prepares for a desperate fight. The dragon prepares its next move by taking a deep breath. He unleashes a devastating blast of fire that incinerates everything in its path. Young remains focused and prepares to dodge the incoming attack. He lets out a grunt of exertion as he narrowly avoids the massive explosion. He charges forward with his sword, channeling blue mana to strike back. He leaps high into the air to gain a strategic advantage over the beast. With intense focus, he prepares to unleash his most powerful technique. Young uses the split demon technique, landing a massive blow to the dragon's head. The colossal beast is slammed into the ground by the force of the strike. Young catches his breath and notes that dragons are on a completely different level, realizing he would have been defeated instantly if he hadn't trained first. Finally, Young reaches the dragon's territory after 19 days, but decides that staying any longer would be a waste of time. He reveals that there is another specific reason he traveled all this way. He suddenly halts his movement as he notices something unusual nearby. He senses a familiar occurrence and wonders if it is happening once again. He quickly hides in the thick foliage to observe his surroundings undetected. His suspicions are confirmed as he watches the strange scene unfold before him. A group of 8th-rank lizardman monsters appears, letting out piercing screams. Young notes that these monsters should only be on the outskirts, yet they are attacking and retreating from the island's center. He realizes these low-rank monsters aren't smart enough for such tactics, and suspects they are being affected by something external. Driven by this realization, he leaps into action to investigate the source of the anomaly. One of the monsters grunts in surprise as it is suddenly targeted. The monsters begin to flee deeper into the forest after their brief skirmish. He follows closely, confirming his theory about their coordinated behavior. He delivers a swift and lethal strike, cutting down one of the creatures with ease. Noting that this has happened twice now, he decides his best move is to follow the retreating monsters. He mentally prepares himself to confront his enemies in a martial fight. He observes the surrounding area, noting the presence of a hidden people-detecting array. A mysterious figure notes the peculiarity of the Martial Lee clan's bloodline while sitting amidst a purple aura. The figure wonders how such a young boy managed to defeat so many monsters alone, but remains unconcerned. He dismisses Young as just a little kid who won't pose a real threat. The man, identified as trainer Nishiyama Shogo, confidently predicts the boy will fall for his obvious trap. He smiles to himself, certain that his secondary plan won't even be necessary. Watching from the shadows, Young confirms it really was a trap, and wonders if the man is a monster trainer. He questions how an outsider could have possibly infiltrated this restricted area. Noticing a teleportation spell circle, he realizes that such an intrusion is actually possible. He concludes with a smirk that this must be the work of a member of the Lee clan. Young briefly considers notifying his household and waiting for reinforcements. He quickly rejects the idea, knowing reinforcements would arrive too late to uncover the mastermind. He realizes that he is left with only one viable option to resolve the situation. He prepares to use his secret stealth arts to approach his target undetected. He leaps through the trees, focusing on hiding his presence using his stealth techniques. He charges forward with incredible speed, intent on taking down his opponent. With a final burst of power, he resolves to handle the enemy himself. A mysterious bird-like artifact begins to glow with a blinding light as it is activated. Young launches a swift surprise attack with his energy blade, while his opponent is caught sitting down. The enemy is paralyzed with shock, unable to believe how quickly the boy managed to close the distance. Young realizes in frustration that the enemy must be using a danger detection artifact to stay one step ahead. A massive explosion of energy erupts as Young delivers a powerful strike that sends his opponent flying. The man admits the illegitimate child is far more skilled than he anticipated, but Young coldly suggests that his opponent is simply too weak. The enemy flies into a rage after Young insults him and orders the monsters to attack the boy immediately. Young readies his blade and prepares to unleash the third form of the seven-star sword. He executes a powerful True Azure strike, cutting through the group of monsters with a massive wave of blue energy. But he is suddenly startled as he feels something go wrong with his movements. He realizes in shock that his body has been completely paralyzed and he is unable to move. The enemy trainer laughs triumphantly, mocking the boy for falling straight into his trap. The man explains that the advanced array blocks all mana, leaving Young powerless and facing a pathetic death while unable to move. Young looks down at the glowing seal, questioning the trainer's claim that his mana has been blocked. He notices that the enemy trainer's trap works by blocking his mana circles. Noticing the blue energy flowing through his legs, Young realizes he can simply use his mana paths instead of just mana circles to bypass the restriction. A massive burst of energy erupts as Young forcefully breaks through the paralyzing array. Young quickly leaps toward the trainer and appears directly in front of him. The trainer is stunned to realize Young has broken free from his trap. Pointing his blade at his opponent, he asks if the man has finally given up on trying to run away. Shogo asks how he broke free, but Young refuses to tell him and demands his surrender, since the clan has been notified. The trainer lets out a sinister laugh, claiming that it doesn't matter what the boy has done. Shogo declares his intent to eliminate Young to regain his freedom, leaving the young boy looking completely confused. Young is suddenly caught off guard, questioning the situation before he can even finish his sentence. He is violently thrown back by an unseen force, crashing through the dense forest. The strike sends Young hurtling with tremendous force into a tree. The impact is devastating, leaving Young coughing up blood. He lies broken and gasping for air, beginning to realize that the legends might actually be true. Paralyzed by fear, he stares up at the shadow of a monster that defies belief. The island's ancient guardian, Turtlehead Mountain rises from the earth with a terrifying roar. Young is shocked that a third-rate trainer managed to tame such a high-ranked nightmare monster. Shogo admits he doesn't have perfect control yet, but it's enough to carry out the order to kill him. The trainer smugly tells Young that he should just give up on trying to fight the beast. He commands Young to just accept his fate, while throwing down several talismans. The papers flutter through the air, surrounding the exhausted boy. Young realizes that since the trainer lacks perfect control over the monster, his best strategy is to take down the man himself. To stand a chance against Turtlehead Mountain, Young pulls out a secret weapon he hoped he'd never have to use. He prepares to swallow a banned medicine known for its dangerously intense side effects. He consumes the mana booster, causing a surge of energy to course through his entire body. As the energy builds, Young prepares to unleash one final move. His ring begins to glow with an intense blue light as he channels his mana into it. He readies a secret technique his aunt warned him to only use in the most desperate situations. With his eyes glowing bright blue, he realizes that the time to use it is now. Young activates the legendary heaven-defying technique, surrounding himself with a massive surge of blue mana to boost his physical abilities. A violent explosion shatters the earth as the technique's power is unleashed. He leaps through the air with his blade ready, attacking the massive ancient guardian of the island. He realizes with frustration that his powerful attack was blocked without even leaving a scratch on the monster. With his eye glowing with intense power, he resolves to finish the battle with his next move. The monstrous guardian lets out a terrifying roar, gathering massive amounts of purple energy. Young recognizes the monster's cry as the fear ability and feels its paralyzing effects. He finds himself completely unable to move and curses the overwhelming pressure of the monster's mana waves. A mysterious dark energy symbol begins to manifest on his chest, reacting to the monster's power. He is shocked to find that his own dark energy has successfully resisted the monster's paralyzing fear. Seizing the opening, Young dashes forward with incredible speed. He prepares to unleash a devastating sword strike reinforced by his mana. He readies the first technique of the legendary Boundless. Young executes the devastating split demon technique, landing a direct and powerful blow on the monster's head. A colossal explosion of energy consumes the area as the technique connects with total force. The strain of the attack takes its toll, leaving Young coughing up blood. He realizes he is running out of time as the severe side effects of the mana booster and his technique begin to paralyze his body. With only 10 seconds left before his body gives out, he desperately searches for the enemy trainer. With only seconds left before his body gives out, Young forces himself to move faster. Suddenly, he notices something that surprises him. He finds a mysterious red thread trailing along the ground. The countdown continues as the red thread leads him directly toward the enemy trainer's hidden location. The trainer is left in complete shock, unable to understand how the boy managed to find him. As time runs out, Young leaps for an attack, but realizes his child body is just barely out of reach. Determined to win, he resolves to overcome his physical limits by extending the length of his blade. Young unleashes a massive energy strike, successfully slashing the enemy trainer with his elongated sword. Exhausted and covered in blood, Young struggles to stay conscious as his body reaches its absolute limit. He quickly drinks the legendary nectar, following his aunt's advice to recover after using such a powerful technique. Barely able to move, Young realizes he must finish off the trainer before any more monsters arrive. Suddenly, Young wakes in a mysterious white void and wonders where he is. He questions the whereabouts of the trainer and the island's ancient guardian turtle while shrouded in a dark energy. He groans in agony as his body remains battered from the intense fight. Young feels his body breaking down and realizes his situation is critical as a massive eye looms over him, speaking in an eerie voice. The mysterious voice notes that Young has consumed two substances far too dangerous for any normal human to handle, even individually. The mysterious presence admits they hoped he wouldn't wake up, but acknowledges the current reality. The voice commands to feed Young a mysterious purple object as he looks on in confusion. Young wonders if this purple beehive is the legendary purple glowstone of clarity, but the voice warns that instead of eating it, the stone will consume him. The mysterious creature, which resembles a turtle, announces the start of a new era and urges the young boy to grow stronger to avoid being devoured by time. Young finally opens his eyes to find Hua watching over him with a worried expression. Young weakly calls out to Hua, who reminds him of her senior status before kindly asking how he is feeling given his poor condition. Young notes that while his entire body is in terrible condition, his mana levels have significantly increased. He internally questions whether he actually consumed the legendary purple glowstone of clarity. Did that mysterious turtle creature actually provide him with the purple beehive? Young casually lists his severe internal injuries, twisted intestines, torn muscles, and broken bones, leaving Hua completely horrified by his condition. In his mind, Young explains that the purple stone of clarity is a miraculous medicine. It grants one with incredible physical benefits, increases mana, and helps resist poisons and curses. It's something Li Hua would take, and it was one of the things Young wanted to obtain on the island. But he also feels a bit guilty about Hua, since it seems he consumed it himself. As Young sits up and questions the situation, he is suddenly interrupted by the arrival of his eldest brother. Young is surprised to see Myungjung appearing in the middle of the forest. Myungjung expresses concern and offers potions to treat his brother's mana, but Young insists he only needs the medicine. Myungjung watches in silence as Young quickly drinks the potion to recover. Myungjung asks Hua for a moment of privacy with Young, and she agrees to leave them alone. He declares that if Young had died, he would have destroyed the trainer and every organization involved, regardless of their size. Young finds his brother's protective words nice to hear. He acknowledges that Young's actions were exemplary for a martial artist, but as his brother, he can't view the danger in a positive light. Young sheepishly apologizes, admitting he didn't expect the ancient guardian to appear and would have waited if he had known. Myungjung notes that it's a good thing Young understands the distinction between being arrogant and being confident. Young addresses his eldest brother, asserting that since he defeated the trainer, he should have the rights to any information recovered from him. His brother sighs, admitting that he fully expected Young to make such a request. Myungjung reveals that the trainer was a high-ranking sorcerer expelled for using banned magic, who used advanced sorcery while the island's guardian slept to eliminate Young and frame it as a monster attack. Young asks his brother if they have yet to discover the identity of the person truly behind the assassination attempt. His brother thinks that it will be difficult for him to fulfill the request right now. Suddenly, Young realizes something. He reveals that he wasn't the actual target, and that the enemy is really after his brother, leaving his brother questioning why he thinks so. Young explains that the real goal was to ruin Myungjung's reputation by making him look incompetent and slow to react to the invasion. Myungjung sighs and reluctantly agrees with Young's assessment of the situation. He wonders what he should do next and kindly asks Young if he is okay after the ordeal. He reassures Young that he's fine, and that while his image might take a small hit, it won't matter much in the end. Myungjung explains that he cannot stay away from his post for long and needs to return to his duties. Young stops his brother, calling out to him as he prepares to leave. With a determined look, Young proposes a new plan to his brother. Young suggests they lie and say Myungjung predicted the attack and gave him orders in advance, which would make Myungjung look more prepared than the intelligence branch. Myungjung suggests telling the truth instead, but Young argues that doing so would only make people more suspicious and view him as a threat. He agrees to the plan since it benefits them both and asks Young what he wants in return for his help. Young requests a 3-day entry permit to the library as his reward. His brother jokingly calls Young an arrogant kid, but agrees to the deal, noting that both brothers are benefiting from the arrangement. He affectionately pats Young's shoulder, expressing his confidence that the boy would have succeeded even without his help. Suddenly, he receives a signal from the Azure Sword Squad and realizes he must return to his post immediately. Myungjung turns to depart, calling out as he remembers one last detail for his brother. Young is suddenly startled as a weapon is thrown past him. Young stares at his Boundless, and his brother resolves to keep its existence a complete secret. Young smiles confidently while holding the Boundless and acknowledges just how clever his brother is. Hua notes that their conversation seems to have gone well, and Young simply agrees. Hua asks Young which test he plans to take now that the survival period is over. After a brief argument about who should speak first, Hua proudly declares that she intends to take the most difficult test available. When Hua asks for his decision, Young reveals that he has chosen the Hall of Fighting. Hua is completely caught off guard by his choice and asks if that specific test is located on the outskirts of the island. Young calmly confirms that the test he chose is indeed located on the outskirts. Feeling deeply disappointed, Hua insults Young's choice as being too easy and decides there is no point in even talking to him. Young realizes that Hua is judging him based on common prejudices, assuming he is taking the easy path. Despite her harsh words, Young remains unbothered by her opinion and continues on his way. Night falls over the island as the sounds of nature fill the quiet forest air. Young searches through the thick brush, trying to recall the exact location of a specific spot from his memories. He focuses on finding a hidden cave that serves as the site for the naming ceremony's second assignment. Young finally arrives at the entrance of the mysterious Hall of Fighting. He ignites a torch to illuminate the dark path ahead of him. As he enters, Young observes that the cave wall appears to be perfectly normal at first glance. However, he knows that there is a secret hidden behind the seemingly ordinary rock face. With a quick motion, Young draws his blade and prepares to strike the stone. A powerful burst of blue energy erupts as Young strikes the hidden mechanism within the wall. The impact causes a massive stone door to shift and reveal a hidden passageway. With a satisfied smile and glowing eyes, Young confirms that he has successfully found his target. Young makes a small cut on his hand, letting his blood drip down as he prepares for the ritual. Blue energy begins to swirl around his fist as he activates his mana. A massive stone door swings open, releasing a blinding pillar of light from the chamber. The heavy doors fully open to reveal a grand hall with a single sword resting on an altar. Young stands at the threshold of the massive chamber, ready to face whatever challenge lies inside. He slowly walks deeper into the silent, dimly lit hall, his footsteps echoing through the room. Declaring himself a descendant of the Martial Lee clan, Young accepts the challenge of the forefather, while letting his blood fall. He requests the hall to heed his call, knowing there is only one challenge to face in this place. The ultimate trial is revealed as he must win a battle against a manifestation of himself. He realizes he has unlimited attempts, but he is trapped here until he successfully completes the trial. With a firm grip on his blade, Young declares the start of the battle. He is suddenly caught off guard by a swift and unexpected attack from his opponent. Young is left in shock and confusion as he is violently struck down in an instant. He jolts awake with a gasp, desperately clutching his throat in terror. After checking for injuries, Young realizes he was just decapitated in an illusion and cannot actually die within the hall. Young notes that the experience feels incredibly realistic and believes most ordinary people would go insane from it. He realizes that the realism isn't the actual problem he's facing. Looking at his glowing manifestation, he wonders if he is truly capable of performing such incredible feats. He understands that the Hall of Fighting is designed to draw out 100% of his current potential. He concludes that the illusion can use skills he hasn't mastered yet, and believes he should have been able to block the previous strike. With renewed determination, he readies his blade and prepares to attempt the trial once more. Unfortunately, during his third attempt, his manifestation manages to pierce his abdomen. On his fifth attempt, he successfully deflects the sword, but ends up being choked to death. His failures continue through the 10th, 13th, and even his 23rd attempt as he is repeatedly killed in the illusion. A massive explosion of blue energy erupts as the two combatants clash with their blades in the dimly lit hall. Young skids across the floor, maintaining his combat stance despite the intense physical pressure. Exhausted and breathing heavily, he loses track of his attempts, estimating he is now on his 80th try. Despite the many deaths, he smiles with glowing eyes, finally confident that he has learned everything he needs to know about himself. Young reflects on his greatest strengths, which are his flexibility and his ability to overcome irregularities. He also values the freedom to break through any expectations placed upon him. He realizes that this is the moment he has been waiting for as he charges into battle. He notices that the more he fights against his manifestation, the more similar they become as their weapons clash with a massive burst of energy. The fight intensifies as both fighters clash their weapons with each other. Young's illustrated toy skids across the training hall floor to prepare an attack on Young. He grips his blade tightly, channeling a massive surge of blue mana to prepare for his next move. With a quick burst of speed, he lunges forward to close the distance between him and Young. He is suddenly startled as Young mockingly calls him stupid during their intense exchange. Young reveals that he intentionally left his guard down to lure his manifestation into a trap. Young finally unleashes the devastating split demon technique, causing a colossal explosion of energy to consume the hall. After the massive clash, Young's illustration begins to dissolve into particles of light. He notes that completing this trial will unlock a hidden plan ability, recalling that he only received a common reinforcement skill in his past life. Surrounded by a powerful aura, he eagerly wonders which unique ability he will awaken this time. His eyes widen in shock as a new radiant energy begins to swirl around him, signaling the awakening of an unexpected power. Outside the trial chamber, clan members gather and murmur in anticipation as they wait outside of the trial cave for Young. His uncle Tae-hong lets out a deep sigh as he reflects on the current situation. He admits he expected the boy to be off the trail by now. He wonders just how much more trouble the kid will stir up during the rest of the naming ceremony. Tae-hong is suddenly startled as he senses a massive shift in the mana density on the island. He shouts in realization as the ancient trial chamber finally begins to open. Young appears completely exhausted and stumbles as he finally emerges from the chamber. Tae-hong shouts the boy's name in alarm as he rushes toward him. He desperately catches Young and urges him to wake up, checking to see if he is all right. Young weakly mumbles a request, leaving Tae-hong looking completely confused. The boy desperately begs for water and food as his body trembles from extreme hunger and exhaustion. Tae-hong looks at his nephew with a concerned expression. He screams and lets out a curse as he is both angry and concerned about Young's situation. He quickly picks up the boy and rushes to get him the help he needs. Young is finally brought back to his house from the red and blue island. Gawa bursts into tears and shouts in distress as she finally sees the young master's condition. She pulls Young into a tight embrace, sobbing about how worried she was, while he mentions his month-long struggle in the ancient hall. She admits she planned to scold him but is simply relieved he returned safely, while Young thanks her with a warm smile. She quickly promises to prepare a bath and food for him to help him recover. Young asks about his aunt's whereabouts, noting that he expected her to be the first one to greet him. Gawa hesitates to answer, prompting Young to ask her what is wrong. Kyung-ha greets Young with a happy smile, noting his safe return. Young visits his aunt behind bars, where she expresses relief at his safety but is shocked by his massive increase in mana power. She questions how his young body can even handle such an incredible amount of energy. Kyung-ha urgently tells him to sit down so they can speak privately. Despite being in chains, Kyung-ha laughs and insists she is fine, while Young realizes the risks she took for him. Young explains that his aunt was imprisoned for repeatedly causing scenes in front of the clan elders and his eldest brother. She had been acting out aggressively just like she always does. Kyung-ha apologizes to the boy, admitting her rage boiled over when thinking about the people causing him trouble. She confesses that she was driven by the terrifying thought of never being able to see him again. She dramatically explains that the stress of the situation felt like she was being choked. Young reflects on their time together, admitting that while he doesn't fully trust her yet, he has started treating her like real family. He smiles and decides to simply accept the genuine bond they have built. Young promises to get her out of prison soon, though she warns him not to push himself too hard. He looks back with a confident smile and promises to return to visit her again very soon. An airplane lands on the illuminated runway in the middle of the night. The group begins to disembark from the aircraft and lines up on the tarmac. The patriarch walks down the stairs to meet the clan leaders waiting for them. He has finally returned from his mission. Lee Taeshin stands tall and is warmly received by the clan members. The matriarch greets the patriarch and mentions she has prepared a meal in a hot spring for his return. Young and Hua stand together, acknowledging the situation with serious expressions. Young reflects on how much he has grown since the naming ceremony incident. He realizes that despite his progress, the power gap between him and his father is still immeasurable. The patriarch suddenly looks back, making Young wonder if their eyes just met. Taeshin stops walking and coldly states that he has no use for those who won't fight for the family. He turns his head and notes that only one of his children actually has the desire to surpass him. Young and Hua are left in shock, wondering exactly which sibling the patriarch is referring to. Young realizes that even though he tried to hide his emotions, his father was still able to read his mind. The esteemed Marshall Lee clan holds a grand banquet at their ornate hall. Young observes that the celebration is unusually large for a naming ceremony within the clan. He notices many high-profile guests, including the youngest leader of a famous magic tower. Another guest catches his eye, identified as the current vice chief of Onmyodo. Butler Choi suddenly approaches Young, startling him as he addresses the young master. The butler politely informs Young that the patriarch is currently looking for him. Surprised by the sudden summons, Young follows the butler to meet with his father. He wonders why his father is asking for him personally and hopes it isn't anything too serious. Young arrives at the meeting spot and formally announces himself to his father. The boy is taken aback by an unexpected presence at the meeting. He is shocked to find his eldest brother, Myeongjum, standing alongside the patriarch. The patriarch sternly notes that Young should already know why he was called there. He brings up the naming ceremony and Myeongjum's report about Young capturing an outsider. The patriarch directly accuses Young of being the true mastermind behind the recent events. Young realizes in shock that his father had already figured everything out. He admits the truth, explaining the deal he made with Myeongjung to gain library access in exchange for his help. The patriarch decides to forgive the false reports because of Young's successful resolution of the incident. However, he warns Young that he won't get another chance, and the boy quickly acknowledges the command. The patriarch then orders Myeongjung to return to the banquet, promising him a future punishment for his involvement. Myeongjum looks at Young, simply nods and walks away with a calm smile on his face. Young watches him go, silently hoping that his brother will be all right. The patriarch acknowledges Young's accomplishments and confirms he will receive his promised reward. Young is left in total shock when his father offers him an additional reward for finding the Hall of Fighting. He begins to consider his next move after hearing his father's unexpected offer, though this reward was not revealed to us. The scene shifts to the grand banquet. The patriarch thanks the guests for attending the banquet held to bless the two children. He announces that they will now proceed with the official naming ceremony. The patriarch commands his eighth child, Hua, to step forward. He expresses his belief that she will lead others after being chosen by the Holy Sword Ivory, and hopes she stays on the path of light. He officially gives her the name Soyeon as the name is revealed on a scroll. She happily expresses her gratitude while the guests applaud her new name. The patriarch then turns his focus to the next child. He calls for his ninth child, Young, to come forward. Young notes that the reaction is different from his previous ritual, but decides it doesn't matter. His father acknowledges that Young is smart and strong, yet flexible and unyielding. He compares the boy's training to a blacksmith forging steel to reach his full potential. The patriarch states there is no better way to describe him than the name he has chosen. He snaps his fingers to signal the reveal of the name. He officially grants the boy the name Cheol. Young recalls that in his past life, he was given this name to live as strong as steel. He realizes the meaning of his name has changed and vows to reach the top of the clan. With a confident smile, he proudly declares his new identity as Lee Cheol and thanks his father with a bright, determined expression.